Come and take a class at the Altar Academy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another great episode of Alter Academy, where we have another special guest, fresh off his CCQ undefeated run in Vegas, piloting the hottest new deck on the market, Ruby Amethyst. Donald Yee's here to bring it, also known as Anatidae. How are you doing today? And congratulations on your huge win.
Oh, thanks so much. I'm doing great. It's been a great weekend. I'm glad to be here to share the deck.
Yeah, not it's not usual that the undefeated person just goes and continuously goes undefeated. So to be first in Swiss and then just win out throughout all of the top 16 is just hugely impressive. And so, why don't you just tell me a little bit about yourself, how you get into Lorcana, and then we'll go into this deck as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been a card game player since I was probably 10 years old.
Me as well.
Uh, yeah, old school Magic player, semi-competitive, and then just went to college and got a job and started a family.
Yeah.
And they got into Lorcana because I had a 4-year-old daughter that I thought might be interested in, Disney princesses and card games and whatnot. Turns out she wasn't, but I really was. So I've been playing since probably about the end of set three. Was starting to get competitive around the Ursula's return set
Hmm.
championships, and then played in a couple of DLCs last season. Played through the Continentals last chance qualifiers.
Yep.
Didn't quite, get a breakout performance, but just kept plugging away. Kept getting a little bit better, a little bit better.
Hmm.
And just glad to, get a good run last weekend.
Oh yeah, and to be qualified for the NA Continentals is huge, 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 and going to be excited to see how you do in that tournament. But what everybody's here for today, the Ruby Amethyst deck that's taking the world by storm. Let's go ahead and just talk about it. And I see like a lot of like kind of Frank Karsten-esque choices with a lot of one-ofs. And so I'm just really excited to hear your thoughts on why this was so successful this weekend and your approach to building the deck list.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's always a value in having a toolboxy type approach
Hmm.
when you have a structure to build off of, and I think Frank Carson's ideas are really kind of the basis for how you build an aggro kind of tempo curve deck,
Yeah.
and that's kind of where this all started. Um, Kind of the day after we came back from DLC Milwaukee, someone posted a Ruby Amethyst deck list in the Discord and was like, "This looks pretty good. It's working pretty well. I think there's something here." And we just took it for a spin. Took a lot of the new cards out of the new Whispers from the well set, and just started jamming games. And we recognized that the I think two most powerful cards out of Ruby that people were not really appreciating were probably the new two-cost Diablo,
Oh yeah.
and the new 5-cost Headless Horseman,
Hmm.
because they just created a lot of scenarios where you could quest very aggressively and then take very good trades that then let you quest more aggressively
Oh yeah.
afterwards. So that's kind of where it started. Um, and then we just kept tuning it for the last probably several weeks. We were trying to keep it as quiet as possible in the various discords that we're sharing it.
Hmm.
And then this past week, it started popping up on Twitter, it started popping up on stream, and we knew we just had to just take the list and win.
Oh yeah, and that you did. So a couple cards I want to comment on is David Xanatos. So how did he play into it, and how did he perform this weekend? Because that's not one I have seen a ton. So curious on your opinion there.
Yeah, so it's a card that came kind of early in testing. It was sort of just a big body that came late in the curve that enabled you to create trading patterns and recoup some card advantage when you were starting to slip behind a little on the board.
Hmm.
It lets you rush the Demona for a lot of value when you play it kind of in line with the Demona the following turn. Lets you rush Iagos. It just lets you kind of surprise an opponent,
Yeah.
and then still get you lore at the same time. And so that's kind of the value in the Xanatos.
Yeah, and then the other big one, the Ursula, she has the ability to just kind of steal games and have that very high questing. So how did she perform overall, and were you happy with how she did?
She was great all weekend. This was actually kind of one of the last changes we made to the deck. Early versions were playing a lot of Maleficent's Dragons because we were trying to go over the top of
Hmm.
Prince Philip, and that worked okay. But with a lot of the blue decks kind of shying away from playing a lot of spooky sites. We weren't really getting to the 8-9 ink totals that we were beforehand. And so just getting another evasive body that was hard to deal with, that put a lot of lore pressure on, was kind of how we were trying to tackle the Sapphire matchups.
Oh yeah, and then especially when you're on the play, you can just go like turns 2 through 5 or something, just two quester, two quester, two quester, and even if they can pull off the Prince Philip combo, you're still at like 16, 17, and can easily just like finish it off. So, uh, big fan of that. And then one last question about the library, because we have not typically seen a lot of locations in this format so far. So, why is the library such a strong choice in this specific archetype?
The library is really great because it diversifies your threat selection. I think that it does two things. One is it insulates you from the turns when the green decks can pull off their Prince Philip combos. So if they're just ready to set up a Shift Philip and sing Malicious, Mean, and Scary, instead of putting down more characters to the board, you just play a library, load everyone on the library, and make them have it.
Mm-hmm.
Alternatively, sometimes, especially against the blue steel decks, the Blurple decks, a lot of their characters are designed to remove other characters on play. They don't have a lot of strength intrinsically. And so if you play a library, they can't remove it with their Hades, they can't remove it with their, Vincenzos, and it just sits and ticks for 2 or 3 turns, gets you a couple lore, and forces them to challenge it instead of questing themselves. And so it creates an interesting dynamic where you can kind of like the old school Ruby Amethyst, and you
Mm-hmm.
drop 2 or 3 libraries on a turn. Makes it really hard for them to contest everything on the board.
Oh yeah, and the 8 willpower is still very very obnoxious for most decks to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, is there anything else you want to touch on before we get into some simulations?
No, not really. I mean, I think for a lot of people who played Ruby Amethyst kind of in the later sets, probably the last couple of sets, this will be kind of a different approach to it. It's not
Mm-hmm.
a control deck. It doesn't really want to go to a late long game, but it has the tools to grind that out. It feels a lot like if you had played the green purple tempo decks
Yeah,
from set 3, 4, 5, 6. It has a lot of the same styles. And so if you kind of can go back in time and remember how to play those decks, this will come pretty naturally.
perfect. Okay, well let's get into some simulations then, and let's start as we always start here on Alter Academy with blind on the play.
Sounds good. Yeah, so this is a deck that's pretty straightforward as far as how you want to play on the play. You're really looking for a curve on turn one, turn two, turn three, as much lore as possible. And then you transition on your turn four and turn five into either going more evasive or starting to control the board a little bit and setting up for your combo essentially, which is Headless Horseman on turn five into a Demona to draw 2 to 3 cards and destroy your opponent's board on turn six.
Yep,
In this hand, you don't have a one drop. I think the realistic alter here is to keep the Lumiere as a safe 2 drop, if nothing else, and then you look for the one drop.
yeah, agreed. And so pretty easy. So let's go ahead and see what we get here, and we are rewarded with the one drop.
Yeah, and this is a great hand. Diablo, again, it's not the best in specific matchups, but generically on the play, you're always happy to just put it out there.
Yep,
And then your 2 drop will just vary depending on what you see from your opponent. If it's a blue deck that's going to go a little bit slower, you're fine going with the Timothy Q Mouse on two, the Sisu on three, Genie on four, Dumbo to draw on five, and then you fit in the Hercules and Lumiere eventually at some point, or the Lumiere is just ink for your first turn play.
perfect. Yeah. And tell me about this Hercules. We didn't touch on it before, but
Oh yeah.
what has he been impactful against, and how has he helped you in certain matchups?
Yeah, so Hercules, I think, has very obvious strengths to it.
Hmm.
It's a very, very good play into all the steel decks, essentially because its first ability means that it can't be removed with any sort of non-character damage.
Yep.
So they can't strength it, they can't thunderbolt it, they can't Vincenzo it. It doesn't take damage from Tinkerbells, and so it's a very reliable character to play on turn four.
Got it.
Um, The downside is that it doesn't draw you a card like Genie does, and then they can trade back into it once it does challenge or quest. So you usually only get one turn to actually use it. But there are ways of manipulating the board early on to get
Hmm.
more value out of it. And the important thing too is that a lot of your characters are heroes. And so
Yeah.
Sisu's a hero, Dumbo's a hero. The Peter Pan evasive is actually a hero as well, which is kind of a neat thing. And then the Elsa on turn 5 is kind of the perfect curve where you go Hercules into Elsa. So you
Yes.
challenge two things without taking damage.
Oh gosh, yeah. That sounds quite nice. All right. Well, let's go into blind on the draw now.
Yeah, so this would be an awesome hand on the play.
Hmm.
On the draw, it's a little bit trickier. Again, because you're missing a two drop here. Your Diablos don't really do a whole lot in terms of challenging on the board, and there's no guarantee that the Horseman Demoted combo is going to be um, as effective as you want it to be because you're going to be up a card and they're going to be down a card. So on the blind, I'll usually keep both Diablos, and then send everything else to find a two drop. If you end up getting another one drop, you can always double one drop on the
Yep.
second turn, and still be able to at least apply some pressure. And then if they give you the cards back on the Diablo when you quest with them, that gives you more opportunities to find a better curve.
Perfect. Okay, and let's see how we do here. We get it all.
Yeah, and this is perfect. Yeah, this is perfect. So now you can ink the Diablos and play the Tinkerbell into the Diablo. Your turn 3 is your Cheshire Cat, which is kind of what you want most of the time on turn 3 on the draw, because it lets you kind of stabilize the board. And then your turn 4 can be a Dumbo or Genie or Hercules or whatever you draw over the next 3 turns.
Yeah, the Cheshire Cat has just been such an impressive card. Like on the reveals, I thought it would be okay, but in practice, it just kind of gives the same style that Big Tink had, where you just really can't quest because you just lose so much board presence. So I've just been really, really impressed with that card. What are your thoughts on it?
I think it's. I mean, one of my teammates has said that it's the best purple card in the set. I think that's probably true. Um, Individually, it freezes a lot of boards to prevent people from taking greedy quests, and then when you stack multiples of them, it just makes it impossible to effectively do combat
Yeah,
until it's off the board.
yeah, well said. All right, let's go into the Amethyst Steel matchup, and we'll start on the play.
All right. Yeah, so on the play, you're still kind of looking for the same thing. I think the ideal one drop in the Amethyst Steel matchup is going to be either the Tinkerbell or the Palace Guard, because they can both quest fairly safely into whatever their one and two drops are going to be.
Hmm.
Either the Calhoun's going to trade into the Tinkerbell evenly and you pick up a lore, or the Calhoun will eat the Tinkerbell and also just trade evenly. Um, and the Palace Guard can quest once, take 3 damage in the challenge back, and then quest again and get 2 lore pretty safely. So those are kind of where you want to be.
Yep.
Here you have 2 Tinkerbells, which is perfect. You have 2 Diablos. Not ideal because you tend to still want to play the Cheshire Cat on turn 3.
Hmm.
And so in this situation, I would probably send away the Tinkerbell and the Diablo, and then expect to curve through the Iago and the Elsa on turn 5.
Gotcha. Okay, and let's see what we do here. And we do get that upgrade to the Palace Guard if we want, giving us more options. So it looks like a pretty good start.
Yep.
All right, let's do Amethyst Steel on the draw now.
Alrighty. And on the draw, this is a little bit of a clunkier hand. You see 3 uninkables between the Diablos and the Headless Horsemen, or 4 uninkables actually. The library doesn't do anything in the matchup. And the Demonas and the Elsas are sort of later game cards. And so in this situation, I probably just keep one of the Diablos and send everything else.
Okay, easy enough. Let's see how we do here.
And a much better upgrade as well. You get a one drop. You play the Diablo on 2, play the Cheshire Cat on 3, and then potentially even boost the Cheshire Cat and play the second Diablo on turn 4.
Hmm.
So it's a nice little kind of way of manipulating the curve to still use all your ink every turn.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out as well, because a lot of people just sort of miss that option to fill the ink. So well said. Let's go into Sapphire Steel on the play now.
Mhm. Yeah, so Sapphire Steel matchup is much more nuanced. Part of it is that you want to be able to quest very, very aggressively on turns 1 through 4,
Mm-hmm.
and then try to find ways to refill through all of the removal.
Mm-hmm.
So this is actually not a bad hand. Um, I like being able to go Diablo into Hercules because Hercules is hard for them to remove. And then you have the Horseman and the Demona for your uh, board control and then the refill. So I would probably send the Demona just by itself to see if you can find one better 3 drop. But you're fine playing the Lumiere on turn 3 if that ends up being kind of the worst case scenario.
Got it. Okay, so let's just alter one and see how we do here.
And so here you're just having to ink one of the Diablos, play the other Diablo. Your turn 2 will just kind of dictate based on your draw whether you ink the Lumiere or if to ink the Demona at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, just play up the curve and try to get as much lore as possible before they try to stabilize.
Perfect. Okay, and let's do Sapphire Steel on the draw now.
So this is another hand where I think this is a nice way of going wide with a lot of bodies that are hard for them to remove. I really like the double palace guard here.
Mm-hmm.
And the library also is actually much better into the Sapphire Steel matchup because even if you play it on turn 3, they don't have a lot of ways of challenging into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it will generate probably 4 or 5 lore almost without anything that they can do about it. And then if you start putting your characters onto it and they start having to remove that, you can recoup a lot of the value from those characters. So I would almost send away the Cheshire Cat and the Demona here, um, and then use probably the Lumiere or the Palace Guard as your early ink. I anticipate going kind of Palace Guard Diablo into the library on turn 3, and just again, if you get one of the evasive 2 questers, that's better, but it's not a bad way of setting up a board that can grind out a matchup against Sapphire Steel.
Okay, yeah, and let's see if we improve at all.
And so a little bit, I think you'll plan on holding one of the Lumieres to potentially play on turn 3 or 4, and then you have the Ursula on turn 5 as again another evasive big body that's hard for them to remove until they get to Hades Inc.
Yep, and if they don't have Hades, they're not really removing that card very easily.
Yes.
All right, let's go into Emerald Sapphire on the play now.
Yeah, Emerald Sapphire kind of the same kind of mentality that you want to play into as Sapphire Steel. Again, they're doing a lot of the big ramping things, and then they try to remove your board with a Prince Philip combo. And so you just have to get as much lore as possible, try to set up a library before they get to that point, and then
Yep.
leave behind maybe 1 or 2 cards to kind of rebuild
Mm-hmm.
afterwards. The downside is that you also have to mitigate against their Clarabelle shifts and all of that as well. So you want as many cheap things as early as possible, so that your hand size is uh, dwindle as much as possible
Yep.
before they can generate value off of the Clarabelle shift. So in this situation, this is actually a pretty good hand. You'd ideally want a Diablo on turn 2,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm really happy getting the evasive Peter Pan here because there's nothing they can do to challenge it in the first several turns, and so it will generate lore on its own for a long time.
Yep.
The Iago's nice on turn 4 because again they don't have any illusion removal. They've removed a lot of their heads held high, and if they were playing improvise, they're not playing improvise anymore. And so it's a great way of setting up so that if and when they do play their Clarabelle, if you have an Elsa to tap it, it removes the Clarabelle and stays on the board afterwards. So I like having that as a way to hedge. And so I would probably keep the Tinkerbell, the Lumiere, the Peter Pan, and the Iago, and then send the rest.
Okay. Keep the Peter Pan, the Tinkerbell, the Iago, and the Lumiere. So we're sending these three.
Yeah. And
Okay.
you're looking for more 1 drops, I think,
Yep.
because if you can uh, find places to play more 1 drops, all the better.
Perfect. Okay. And how do we do here? And we do get another one drop.
Yeah, and this is nice. I think the Cheshire Cat's probably ink early on,
Hmm.
but the Dumbo is also again really nice because it's an evasive play that once they play their Clarabelle, you can then modulate your hand size while still being able to flood the board.
Yep. Okay. And let's go do Emerald Sapphire on the draw now.
Yeah, and this is a matchup where you just really need to get all of the one drops on the draw.
Hmm.
If you can uh, one drop into a two drop into a two drop plus a one drop, that's how you can avoid getting completely blown out by a early shift Clarabelle or an early shift Clarabelle. You're welcome.
Yep.
If they end up with that, it's probably not a good position to be in. But it's a way of trying to be as efficient against that as possible. And so in this
Yep.
case, you don't have a one drop at all. You only have one two drop, and so I would send everything but the Diablo and just see if you can draw into multiples.
Yeah, I was a little ahead of you there. That's where my brain was going to. So this one seemed fairly straightforward. So let's go ahead. Let's see. Ugh,
Not much better. Yeah, not
this
much
one's a bit
better.
rough. All
This is the
right.
one where you soaked out.
Yeah,
They missed the ramp on turn two.
yeah, yeah. Then we got some hope. Okay, let's do Emerald Amber on the play. The dogs deck.
Yeah. So the Emerald Ember, there's kind of two variations. One is going to be their more classic that's been performing well with with Tramp into Chromacon. They go wide.
Hmm.
They have a lot of small bodies. But they're sort of a combo deck where the first few turns they're not questing for very much.
Yep.
Um, and then the other one is a Circle of Life variant that tries to play a big body into the discard pile, and then put it back into play with Circle of Life. They play a little bit differently, but the same concept applies in that you want to find ways of removing their tramp and then uh, preventing them from questing with a wide board.
Hmm.
And so your two critical cards in that situation are going to be Headless Horseman
Yep.
and Demona at some point.
Hmm.
Um, Still on the play, you still want to play this relatively straightforward in terms of um, curving out with a normal 1, 2, 3 game plan. And so I really like the Tinkerbell, Diablo, Cheshire Cat here. I don't find Hercules to be particularly valuable in the dogs matchup.
Yep.
And the problem is that if you have a better four drop, it ends up being stuck in your hand
Hmm.
as an uninkable. And so I would probably just keep the three Tinkerbell, Diablo, and Cheshire Cat, and then send the rest for the Horseman and the Demona.
Got it. Okay, and let's see how we do here.
And so this is fine.
Hmm.
I think ideally you'll probably play a Tinkerbell on one, a Diablo on two, and then depending on how their board kind of sets up, you can either play the second Diablo on turn three, just to clear out some more of your uninkables, or play the Peter Pan and start getting some lore while they're sitting around trying to build up a good tramp turn.
Yep.
Um, and then Genie on four, hope you draw the Horseman within the first couple of turns.
Got it. Okay, and for the last one of the day, let's do Emerald Amber dogs once again, but on the draw.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is another one where being on the draw, you're a little bit farther behind because they will get to tramp, and they will probably get to do something with the tramp, whether that's sing under the sea or play a chromacon and try to beat you that way. And so you want a lot of your one and two drops. You want to be able to quest aggressively early while they're setting up, and then you still want the horsemen when they do play
Hmm.
the tramp. And so in this situation, I would probably keep the Tinkerbell, the Cheshire Cat as just an option to either ink or uh, play on three, and then I would keep one of the horsemen, just because it's such a critical card in the matchup.
Got it. Okay, and let's see what we get.
Yeah, and this is nice. This is really nice, because you can uh, play your one drops kind of on turn ones and turn two, and then you can either decide to play the Lumiere or the Cheshire Cat on turn three, depending on kind of how the board sets up. If they have a lot of daisies, you probably want the Lumiere early. If they have just a lot of ladies and bobbies and Lilos, then you're okay, just playing the Cheshire Cat and then sort of moving damage around if necessary. And then the goal is to go in Horseman, and hopefully be able to Elsa or Demona the next turn after that.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. Well, Donald, I really appreciate you coming out and doing this Alter Academy, especially so soon after your CCQ win. I really wanted to have you on and just talk about this deck because it really just became quite popular from out of nowhere, basically, within the last week or two. And so, once again, thank you. And before we get out of here, is there any shout outs you want to make or anything you wanted to say to the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to give a shout out to the 20 Lore Discord, where a lot of these ideas kind of came to life. A lot of testing, a lot of brainstorming. Lorcana Lounge, where a couple of friends have been working on the deck with me, kind of a little bit more in secret. Dave and Dickerson have been kind of the driving forces behind a lot of the ideas that went into the deck. And then my team out here in Southern California, Team Red Saber Games, we're a small local card shop, but a lot of great players. One of my teammates finished top eight at the event. Another one of my teammates finished top eight in the side event the day before. And so, a lot of great players, a lot of great ideas, and a lot of collaborative efforts kind of made this thing happen.
Yeah, I love a good collaboration story where it pays off with just such great success. And so these are kind of my favorite stories in Disney Lorcana where this deck just comes out of nowhere and just absolutely dominates and is just the perfect pick for a tournament. And you kind of prove that wholeheartedly with this deck. So once again, well done, sir, and congratulations on your big win.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, until next week, this has been Alter Academy. We'll see you then. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.